GraceandTruthRadio.world proudly presents Life Coaching for Men, improving their relationships with their wives and learning to communicate for a more fulfilling and satisfying marriage. And now, Men Loving Well, with Christian counselor, author, and relationship coach, Dr. Jim Slaughter.
Welcome, everyone. Glad you could join me. The program today begins a 4-part series to help husbands do a better job of loving our wives. This is part 1. Part 1 is called Make Her Feel Loved. You know, at the heart of man's existence really is the longing to be intimate and to be loved by another person. Marriage is designed to meet that need for intimacy and love between a man and a woman. The Bible describes this as becoming one flesh. Our emotional need for love has got to be met if we're going to be healthy emotionally. We feel secure when we're assured that our spouse accepts us and wants us and is committed to our well-being. Now, we're talking about rational, volitional love here. It is intentional. This kind of love begins really more with an attitude than anything else. It's a way of thinking. This love says, I am married to you, and I choose to look out for your interests. One of the things I enjoy most in my work and ministry at the clinic is showing men how to do a better job of loving their wives. Often men come and they don't know what's wrong. They just need some help. We may not get it right every time. I may not get it right every time. But if we work at it, we can begin to apply principles that will shape and mold our marriage into a truly beautiful relationship that's going to last. When a couple comes to see me for help with their marriage, I always ask each of them a question. To the wife, I ask, what would you like from him? And to him, what would you like from her? Part of the reason their relationship is struggling is because they aren't getting what they would like to have from each other. The husband might answer something like, I would like her to believe in me and to tell me I'm doing a good job. The wife, on the other hand, might say something like, I would like for him to spend more time with me and talk to me. Or I would like for him to help me more around the house. The requests that I get are seldom unreasonable. They're just unknown to the other spouse. They're unaware that they aren't speaking each other's love language. Most of the responses I hear fall into categories that Dr. Gary Chapman calls the 5 love languages. After 25 years of working with couples, Dr. Chapman noticed that there are certain needs that people have that have to be met for them to feel loved. To believe someone loves us is one thing. To really feel loved is another. Chapman called these needs love languages, and he identified 5 of them that had shown up in his practice with couples. Number 1, acts of service. Number 2, words of affirmation. Number 3, quality time. Number 4, receiving gifts. And number 5, physical touch. Each of these 5 he called a love language. You know, the vast majority of couples who come to the counseling center come because they don't feel loved by their husband or wife anymore. That'll change if they'll identify their spouse's primary love language and speak that language to them. That is, give them what they need most in order to feel loved. So guys, here's the thing. Your marriage may not be what you want it to be. In the beginning, it felt romantic, you say, exciting, thrilling, electric, and now we can't seem to get it together. My wife seems distant and uninterested. We often argue, and we aren't as intimate as we were at first. The electricity just isn't there. What do I do to get it back? Well, the answer is start speaking your wife's love language. First, you need to do this, guys, so listen up. Go online to the website. It's called the5lovelanguages.com, the5lovelanguages.com, and take Dr. Chapman's brief inventories. Ask your wife to do this with you. Discover what her number 1 love language is and begin speaking it to her. That is, begin to meet this need of hers every day. And here's how you do it. Let's just say, and we'll begin with this, just say that your wife's love language is acts of service. Where do I start? Well, first, you become aware of things that you can start doing for your wife that she will appreciate. Special things that are just for her. She feels loved when you do those things for her. And the things you do don't have to be fancy or lengthy or real hard. To qualify, acts of service should be meaningful to her, things that would help her out. They might save her time, for example, kind of smooth out her day a little bit. Examples of that could be planning and cooking a meal from time to time, folding and putting clothes away, arranging service on some broken appliance, a dishwasher in the house, running her car through the car wash, or, gosh, maybe detailing it for her. That'd blow her away. How about these? Changing a diaper, changing the cat litter, feeding the dog, vacuuming rugs or carpets, dusting a bookcase. See, it's anything that really might make her day a little bit easier, and that would be a loving act of service. That's what she needs from you, if that's her love language. For your act of service to count, though, it can't be something that you normally do already, okay? And it can't be something you would like done. This is for her. This act is serving her. If you don't know what she might like you to do for her, well, ask her. Say, okay, we took the inventory. I know that your love language is acts of service. What are some things I can do for you? I'd like to do some things for you to make you, I really want to make you feel loved. I want to help take some of the load off of you. She probably will be able to come up with some things right away. She may have been wondering when you were going to start. Well, you could hang up your clothes for one thing. She might say, wipe your feet when you come inside. Or you could pick up the dry cleaning on Friday when you come home from work. When your wife's love language is acts of service, doing things for her makes her feel loved and appreciated. This is a way to say, I love you, and really have her feel it. If you think back to the days when you were dating, by the way, you may remember lots of things that you went through and went out of your way to do for her. I mean, even small things. But for a woman whose love language is acts of service, those things made a huge difference, and they made an impact on her, and they probably made you attractive to her. Sometimes the special loving things we do early in our relationship go by the wayside, though. After we get married and into the routine of life, it happens with almost everybody to a certain extent. And if this has happened in your marriage, resurrect some of your early acts of service or come up with maybe some new and current ones. Speak your wife's language of service and relight that flame. Or maybe your wife's love language is words of affirmation. Sometimes guys have trouble with this one, okay? We aren't always that great at words. Sometimes it's very difficult for us to even come up with a compliment, especially if it's a genuine one. We don't know what to do, don't know what to say. The thing is that most of us, even if we are eloquent, can freeze up and get tongue-tied when it comes to paying our wife a genuine compliment. But we've got to figure it out if our wife's love language is words of affirmation. Think about what she does well. What does she do really well? Maybe she's a great cook and fixes family meals and they're fantastic. Maybe she keeps the house clean and straight and organized and beautiful. Maybe she's a great mom. She might run her own business and be a gifted administrator. She could be a CPA and a super number cruncher. She could be a doctor, a lawyer, merchant, chief, as the old saying goes. Think about the things your wife does well and compliment her on them. Women do everything these days. Say, that was an awesome meal. Thank you. I loved it. It was so great. Thanks. Say, I love the way you make our home so beautiful. I love it. People love coming over here because of you. Say, I love it when you put fresh flowers on the table. You always have just the right touch. Say, I'm amazed at how good you are with people. You did a great job closing that deal today. Congratulations. See, if we work at it, we can get the hang of it. You'll come up with compliments and things like these that I've just mentioned if you think about it and if you think about what your wife does really well. Besides compliments, encouragement is a way of affirming your wife. Jennifer, this article you wrote for the church's website is really fantastic. It's really good. You should do more writing. People need to hear what you have to say. I know you've been thinking about starting your own business. Maybe she's thinking about that and has talked about it before. Tell her, I think that's a great idea. What's the next step? Or, you've been thinking about taking a summer course online. Maybe it's time to apply. See, the word encourage really means to inspire courage. You can make your wife feel really loved when you encourage her to follow through on something that she's interested in. Give it a try. A valuable part of affirming your wife verbally also is to use kind words. Use kind words. The Bible constantly relates love and kindness. Love is kind. Kindness is love. And part of the way that we address that and minister to our wives is through the kind words that we use. A friend of ours, a prominent psychiatrist in our area, used to tell couples when they were leaving his office, be kind to one another. He couldn't have given them better advice than that. And to have them hear that the last thing as they leave the office and go back into their own homes and life would be a really important thing. Also, I want you to know that how we say what we say, how we say what we say is more important than what we say. You can use the very same words, say the very same thing almost, except if you use different nuances and tones of voice, they'll mean totally different things. You can say, for example, I'd love to help you with the dishes tonight. Or you could say, dripping with sarcasm, I'd love to help you do the dishes tonight. And, basically the same words, but they're going to mean different things to your wife because of the tone of voice and the nuance that you've used. Kindness. Use kindness when we give verbal compliments and when we affirm our wives by encouraging them. We should make it a point to speak kindly to our wives to make them feel loved. That's a part of making them feel loved. So if your wife's love language is words of affirmation, do these things regularly, guys. Every day, if you can, compliment her, encourage her, speak kindly to her, and she'll feel loved and she'll want to love you back. For some wives, the love language is quality time. Quality time, by the way, with an emphasis on the quality part. So guys, if this is your wife, you got to learn to speak this language for her to feel loved. So what does this mean? Okay, quality time means giving your wife your undivided attention. This doesn't mean sitting on the couch watching television. When you do that, the show you're watching gets your undivided attention, not your wife. A wife whose love language is quality time will often say, I wish he would just sit and talk to me. She's longing for two things here, guys. Number one is closeness, and number two is conversation. I hear this a lot when I ask a wife what she would like from her husband. She'll say, I just wish he would talk to me. Closeness and conversation. Without these things, she's going to shrivel up. With them, though, she's going to thrive and feel loved by you. The next time you go to a restaurant, this is sort of an aside, but the next time you go to a restaurant, look around at the couples there. It's usually not hard to tell the ones who are dating from the ones who've been married for a while. Just think about it. I love doing this, but the couples who have been married for a while, they look at their plates and they look at the food and they stir the food around and they eat in silence. God forbid that they'd be looking at their phones, but incredibly, that does happen. They are together only in the sense that they are seated at the same table. And when I see this, I often wonder how long those marriages are going to last. What about the people who are dating? They hardly touch their food. They don't seem to care if their meal is finished or not. They don't even eat it. Frankly, for them, eating's not the point. They're enjoying quality time together. And so they lean in with their elbows on the table, looking each other in the face. They look into each other's eyes. They're animated and responsive to each other. They talk. They're interested in what the other person has to say, and their faces show it. It's refreshing to get a glimpse of that. But other couples, they act like they've forgotten how to do it. Or maybe they never knew. Quality time has two major components then, okay? Number one, the component of doing something together. Doing something together. And number two, giving our full attention to the other person. What we do together is the context. It's the vehicle for our time together, our togetherness, okay? If our time together is truly quality time, we'll be giving each other focused attention. That's the term I use, and that I like best. Undivided attention, certainly. I call it focused attention. This will include quality conversation, listening, talking, asking good questions, validating feelings. But what matters most is what happens on the emotional level. I see you. I hear you. I connect with you. Maintain eye contact when you're with your wife and when she's talking. Don't listen to your wife and do something else at the same time. That's so rude, and it'll really turn her off. Listen to her. When your wife talks to you, listen for her feelings and reply to what you hear. If she's feeling disappointment in her voice, just say something like, sounds like you feel disappointed right now. What's happening? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? Notice your wife's body language. It tells you a lot. There could be tears sometimes. There can be clenched fists sometimes and furrowed brows, or maybe a smile. Ask for clarification so you'll know what she's thinking and feeling. One thing you must never do is interrupt. Never interrupt. Let her finish what she's saying. Now, here's some ideas for enjoying quality time together. Take a walk together. Ask questions about each other's childhood, from good memories and best friends from back then. Then, what was the most painful part of your childhood? Ride bicycles in the park. Stop when you're tired and watch the ducks or the squirrels or something, and talk about whatever season you're in at that time, what it means to you, which season you like best, and what this means to you. Think of an activity. This is something I want you to think about. Think of an activity your wife enjoys, but you don't. Something you don't enjoy that she loves. Maybe browsing in a flea market or a flower shop or a bookshop or something. Tell her you're wanting to broaden your horizons and you'd like to do this with her. Then set a date and give it your best effort. And she may take you to the symphony, and who knows, you might even like that. Plan a weekend away just for the two of you sometime during the next 6 months or so. Push all your other commitments out of the way. Don't think office, don't think work. Just spend the time with your wife relaxing and talking together. Then take time every day, guys, to share the events of that day with each other. That can be important, and it gives you an opportunity to dialogue and talk. That's what she's going to want most, is that quality time with you. Talk about your day. There's another love language that is an interesting one. It's receiving gifts. What if your wife's love language is receiving gifts? My guess is that gift giving is really a part of the love and marriage process in every culture of the world. It seems transcultural, doesn't it? Crosses all kinds of barriers culturally. And it says, I love you in any language. You know, for our purposes today, it is a language of its own. It's a love language. A gift is often something she can hold in her hand and say, look, he was thinking of me. He remembered me. Giving a gift is purposeful. You have to be thinking of someone to give them a gift. The gift is the symbol of that thought. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. It truly is the thought that counts. And gifts are visual symbols of love. A wedding ring's like that. It's an outward and visible sign of an inward spiritual bond that unites two hearts in love forever. People cherish their wedding rings because of what they symbolize. Some people, when they put them on, never take them off. You know, meaningful gifts come in all kinds of shapes and sizes and all levels of value. But a gift doesn't have to cost a lot to be meaningful. You can take a child who thinks about his mom, and he brings her a flower from the backyard, maybe even a dandelion, a daisy or something. He brings it to her, and when he hands it to her, her eyes begin to tear up. That gift didn't cost him a thing, but the time it took to pick it. But to Mom, it says, Mom, I love you, and that means the world to her. Gifts can be bought, they can be found, or they can be made. A single rose from a market, a bird feather found along the path, the walkway, a handmade card that says, I love you on it. They all speak volumes to the wife who's receiving them. Gifts of love are more important to some people, though, than they are to others. Some wives prize gifts from their husband because they feel especially loved when they receive them. These wives may have the love language of receiving gifts, and probably do. If this is your wife's love language, it can be lots of fun, really, to speak that language to her. You could start by making a list of gifts your wife has especially appreciated in the past. When you decide to give her a gift, consider the kinds of gifts on your list. Choose gifts that you feel comfortable buying or making or finding and give them to her. If her love language is receiving gifts, she will appreciate almost anything you give her. And remember that every gift you give your wife is really an investment that meets her emotional needs. It fills her love tank with a full tank of love. You're investing in your relationship. Here's some ideas for giving gifts to a wife whose love language is receiving gifts. You might try a parade of gifts. Leave a box of candy, for example, for your wife if she likes that in the morning. Have flowers delivered in the afternoon and give her a gift in the evening. When she says, "What's going on here?" you respond, "Just want to fill your love tank. Just want to fill your love tank." You could discover the value of handmade originals. Make a gift for your wife. You don't have to be an artisan, but sometimes something like a raised flower bed in the garden for her, or a raised vegetable garden bed, something like that, using a wooden perimeter and building something like that, or maybe a table that she can display crafts or work on with her crafts. She would probably love that. Give your wife a gift every day for a week. Doesn't have to be a special week, just any week. And I promise you it'll be the week that was. If you're really energetic, you can make it the month that was. Now, she won't ask you to keep this up for a lifetime. It'll go away after a while, but she will love it while it lasts. You might try keeping a gift idea notebook. Every time you hear your wife say, "Boy, I like that," or "That really looks good to me," or "That's so pretty, I love that," write it down in your notebook. Listen carefully and you'll get quite a list. This will serve as a guide when you get ready to select a gift. Some guys have primed the pump by getting their wives together with them and scrolling down her favorite online shopping site, doing it together. I'll give you some ideas there. You might give a living gift. You could buy a plant or a tree, a flowering shrub of some kind in honor of your wife. You can plant it in your own yard where you can water and nurture it. You can enjoy it every day that way, or with permission, you could plant it in a public park or a forest where others can enjoy it also. You'll get credit for this one year after year. The final love language that we're going to talk about today is physical touch. Physical touch. We've known for a long time, of course, that physical touch is a way of communicating emotional love. Physical touch is also a powerful way to communicate love in marriage. Holding hands, kissing, hugging, sexual touching. These all are ways of communicating emotional love to my wife. For some wives, physical touch is their primary love language. Without it, they feel unloved. With it, their emotional tank is filled, and they feel secure in their husband's love. Touch is incredibly powerful. A tender hug communicates love to any wife, but it shouts love to the woman whose primary love language is physical touch. Love touches may be explicit, that is, they will demand your full attention, such as a back rub or with sexual touching, or they may be more implicit and last only a moment, putting your hand on her shoulder, touching her hair, rubbing your body against her as you pass in the kitchen. Sitting close together as you watch a favorite television program can communicate your love loudly to your wife if you sit really close together and touch one another in the process. Touching each other when you walk through the room or leave the house, a kiss or a hug when you leave or return speaks volumes to your wife. Now, this is kind of fun too. You can add a spark to eating out with what we call under-the-table touching. Feet and knees can get into this one, and it can be really fun. You can fill your life's emotional tank by holding hands, even as you walk through a parking lot. That doesn't take a lot of time or energy or effort, but it can add a lot of spark when you do it. Try new touches in new places and let her give you feedback. In marriage, what's appropriate and inappropriate touching is determined by the couple themselves. It's between you and your wife, what you want to do and what you enjoy, what feels good to you. Physical abuse, of course, is never appropriate touching. It is inappropriate by society standards and by God's standards. Although open marriage and sexual freedom are condoned by some today, these actions destroy intimacy and tear down the marriage relationship. Sharing sexual intimacy with someone other than your marriage partner is not an option. Our deep need for intimacy and love simply won't allow it. I want you to note, too, something that, instinctively in a time of crisis, we hug each other. You see, physical touch is a powerful communicator of love, and in a time of crisis, more than anything, we need to feel loved. If your wife's love language is physical touch, nothing is more important than holding her when she cries. As a husband, your love language may not be physical touch, but if your wife's is, then touching her is the way to make her feel most loved. To touch her in loving ways says, I love you. Not to touch her implies that you want to keep distance between you. Touching implies and promotes connection and intimacy, the hallmark of married love. If my wife needs to be touched, I should offer her that gift freely and without hesitation or reservation. Folks, I want to help men do a better job of loving their wives so marriages can thrive. Make Her Feel Loved was part 1 in our series. Join me next week for part 2, Make Her Feel Safe.
Thank you again for joining us. If you would like to contact or coach with Dr. Jim Slaughter, email him at jslaughterphd@yahoo.com or contact him at his clinic, Life Solutions, 817-232-1363. We look forward to seeing you again next week here on Men Loving Well.